Welcome to Box Office News, movie review of Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah. And by the way, this is a spoiler-free review.
So, Spider-Man Far From Home takes place immediately after Endgame, or at least a little while after Endgame. To me, I felt like it's a really good film to go to if you want to have a fun time, if you want to see the continuation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and especially if you're a fan of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, then it's a pretty solid entry, I feel like, and really points to a strong future for that character. But it is not perfect in that his motivations are not always as good as they should be.
Yeah, so the main thing about this movie is they're on vacation or they're going through a class trip type of thing, and it's Spider-Man having to both be a student, be in school, but also be Spider-Man. So this film really focuses on that aspect, almost comparing the two. A lot of things you have to know Endgame for this to really make sense. And I was satisfied because they did dive into that. They took Endgame and it bled through, and I think they did a good job of doing that. It's definitely more spectacle. It's definitely a good Spider-Man film. I would say that for sure. This movie really made me like Spider-Man. It really made me like Tom Holland portraying Peter Parker as Spider-Man. Let's talk about the pros right now.
I think the biggest pro is the how Spider-Man matured as a character. I think that's one of the biggest pro, and how it helps to kind of reinvigorate the Marvel Cinematic Universe post Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, I think the story was a huge pro. I think the story was a unique concept where you wonder, how is Marvel going to top it off? What are they going to do next? I really liked what they did with the story in that sense. But I loved the performance of the cast. I mean, it was insane. Just everybody. Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal, they were for sure really good working together. Everyone that was in it was excellent.
Yeah, they all brought their A game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I feel like even though it isn't like, the Avengers top tier sort of film, that it still brought a lot of visual impact. And so they weren't afraid to go to larger set pieces with the story. And so,
Yeah. And, okay, I think this is the best part of the film. I think with this film, there were enough consequences from previous films or enough things that made Spider-Man have more realistic problems, more realistic emotional things to worry about.
yeah.
Which then put him in a situation of how would he deal with something when it's not the norm, that I think worked really well.
Yeah.
And that's why, even though there were negative things to the film, the story, or characters, there were things, it didn't matter compared to this. You knew what the character needed. You knew what Spider-Man needed to reach that next step, and you saw him have to claw his way to earn it. And I think that was satisfying. Also, this film was engaging. It was really funny. And all of that made the length not feel long. It felt right. It didn't feel too long.
What about the cons? Because it can't be all good.
Yeah. I think the main thing was figuring out how to add a lot into this film, both with struggles. There are various things all over the place, having to tell all of that. It felt rushed. It felt fake in those moments.
Yeah. Like, and I think most of it happened, at least for me, in the beginning, when they were at the high school, where it it didn't really feel too much like a Marvel film, where some of the pacing felt a bit awkward for me in a couple of the scenes. But as it continued on, then it improved. But I think pacing in certain areas could have been reworked.
I think that a movie needs to really focus or be concerned about suspension of disbelief. And story, that's really hard.
Yeah.
I would not know. Like, I think they definitely achieved something great. But just looking at moments that I was sitting there and it just snapped me out of it, there were a lot of those moments with Spider-Man where I felt like it was too much of a leap. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. All right, so I guess I'll go first.
All right.
I give my rating 87, and that is because I think most of it worked really well. I enjoyed it. It made me more excited for Spider-Man, and it brought my excitement a bit closer. It brought my excitement back from Endgame, where I feel like there's still hope. There's still a lot that Marvel could tell.
Yeah, and my rating is very similar. I'm giving it an 85 because I feel like it, in a way, it's, even though it's not like rebooting any character in a way, it's kind of, I felt like rebooting at least my excitement for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I felt fairly burned out after Endgame.
Yeah.
But now I'm interested.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there you have it. Make sure to see the movie and let us know what you thought, for
Yeah,
sure.
in the comments down below.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But we're going to say goodbye now. Let's point.
Goodbye.